Let me quickly now move on to Dushyant Dave, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court, who's joining us live. Thank you, sir, for taking the time out, joining us. Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar, in a speech, questioned recent Supreme Court verdict that has set timeframes for President in deciding bills passed by state assemblies. He has said, President of India is a very elevated position. President takes oath to preserve, protect, defend the Constitution. There is a directive to the President by a recent judgment. Where are we heading? What is happening in the country is what he seems to suggest, that the court has overstepped by setting a time frame for the president to act.
Well, first and foremost, I regard Vice President Mr. Dhankhar quite personally, very highly. And I am therefore quite surprised and disappointed that being a lawyer and having known Constitution quite well, he should make the kind of statements that he has. I think with greatest respects to Vice President Mr. Dhankhar, each of his statements is constitutionally incorrect. There is one principle that we have in this country, that be you ever so high, the Constitution is above you. The Constitution is above the President, Constitution is above the governor of a state. And both the president and the governor take oath under the Constitution. There is a constitutional oath to uphold the Constitution. Now, in a democracy like India, we are a parliamentary democracy with the executive, legislature, and judiciary. Each has its own role. And judiciary's role in that separation of power is to ensure that both the executive and the legislature, that the parliament, remain, in check. Now, therefore, a judiciary has an absolute right of overseeing the actions or inactions on the part of the executive. That may include the president, that may include the governor. So I don't think vice president is at all right, because, ultimately, what is it that is happening today? In non-BJP states or opposition-ruled states, the governor after governor is refusing to clear the bills which are passed by the legislative assemblies. Now, these bills reflect the will of the people of the state. It may not be the will of, the majority party in the center, namely the BJP, but it is the will of the people of the state. Now, governor, therefore, is bound by the Constitution to approve them as quickly as possible. And if at all he disagrees, he has a right to refer it to the president. That doesn't mean now that the president should sit over, what is referred to by the governor for an indefinite period. We must understand that every power under the Constitution is subject to judicial review. And one thing is very clear, that every power is coupled with a duty. Therefore, the president and the governor both are under duty to uphold the Constitution and approve those bills as the will of the people. Secondly, both the president and the governor are bound to exercise power within a reasonable period of time. Every power must be exercised reasonably and as soon as possible. You can't sit over these, bills for a long period of time. Ultimately, people of the state want that. They have elected their representatives, and those elected representatives of the state who form a majority in the state, they have approved those. The legislature has approved. So I think, with greatest respects to Mr. Dhankhar, I think he's far from the constitutional position.
All right, but Mr. Dave, going into what the Vice President has listed or what he thinks are issues with that verdict, he says, and I quote, "We cannot have a situation where you direct the President of India on what basis. The only right you have under the Constitution is to interpret the Constitution under Article 145(3). There it has to be a 5-judge or more. This particular judgment was delivered by 2 judges, Justice Pardiwala and R. Mahadev. Now, does that fall foul of the Constitution is the question, which is what the Vice President says it does.
Well, I must say one thing, that I'm surprised that Vice President has made a statement like that, because he has forgotten to read Article 32 of the Constitution, which itself is a fundamental right. And Article 32 obliges the Supreme Court to issue appropriate writ of mandamus certiorari prohibition, as the case may be, to direct every authority in this country to act in accordance with the Constitution and in accordance with law. Therefore, this is completely, I would say it's an absurd suggestion on the part of the Honorable Vice President to say that Supreme Court can't issue such a directive. If the President and the Governor take law into their own hands, then Supreme Court has an absolute duty to intervene and issue such a direction. And the President and the Governor are bound to act in furtherance of that direction. If they don't, it amounts to breaking up of the rule of law, and nothing of democracy will remain. And that's precisely, see, the problem today is what? That the Bharatiya Janata Party wishes that this country is opposition mukt, not just Congress mukt. Therefore, every state in which opposition is, in power, the kind of governors who are appointed and the kind of behavior these governors have reflected over a period of time is, to say the least, absolutely unconstitutional, disappointing, and many a times shameful. The governors have no role under the Constitution to act as, exercise administrative powers. Their role is a very limited role. Their discretion is extremely limited, which is guided by the Constitution. So what is happening, you will see that in BJP-run states, governors don't behave like this. They don't advise the chief minister. They don't appoint the vice chancellors. They don't go where riots have taken place. They don't do all that. But it's only in BJP states that the governors are functioning, and it seems that there is a pattern why central government is appointing such persons in high constitutional offices as governors in these states. I must say that the Honorable President of India has conducted herself extremely well in a very dignified manner. Yes, in a given case, if she has set over a particular approval of a bill, it is wrong, and Supreme Court has corrected. But the governors, again and again, you will see their conduct is really unbecoming of the high constitutional offices they hold. And I think a high time Prime Minister intervenes and ensures that some good people are appointed as governors who really will act as per the law, as per the Constitution.
Mr. Dabe, the Vice President referred to the framers of the Constitution and the debates that took place then. He pointed at the appointment process of judges. He says Article 124 mentions consultation, and consultation is not concurrence. He says this added by Supreme Court later and questioned the second judge's case verdict.
Well, so far as the Collegium system is concerned, Vice President may be right. In fact, I have myself been an open and vocal critic of the Collegium system. I certainly agree that the second judge's judgment case is completely wrong, and the judiciary has, taken away the power of appointment and transfer of the High Court and High Court judges and appointment of Supreme Court judges from the executive in an unconstitutional manner. I have no doubt about that. So on this point, of course, I agree with the Vice President.
All right. Moreover, Dhankar, the Vice President also criticized the judiciary for lacking accountability, particularly in the context of the reported cash haul at Justice Yashwant Verma's residence, where no FIR has been filed and a judicial committee is investigating. Do you agree with at least this view, that investigation of judges should be in some way fall under the executive's domain? And how should the judiciary balance independence with accountability?
Well, I quite agree with the Vice President that Justice Verma's saga is very disturbing. And I am one of those persons who believes that while maintaining, strictly the fiercely independence of judiciary, some mechanism must be set into motion, which is, which can really bring these judges accountable. And there is no doubt that there is large-scale corruption in judiciary, and those corrupt judges are really undermining the institution and are really undermining far more good judges who comprise the judicial system. But I must say one thing. And this is where Vice President should ask, his own government, that why is it that if the cash was found, the police did not register a case immediately? Why was ED not brought into action? Why is it that it was hidden for 4 days? And is it possible that this was not brought to the notice of the Honorable Home Minister and Honorable Prime Minister? So I think that government has a lot to answer here. Who facilitated removal of the cash? If the police went there, it is shocking that the cash is removed from there. So, Vice President perhaps should, hold his government accountable and ask the government to really place the facts on the floor of the Rajya Sabha.
All right, appreciate you taking the time out, joining us, Mr. Dave. Thank you there.